Hello everybody and welcome back, and in this tutorial we will continue with some of the other options that Nmap allows us. Now you might be asking, why are we covering all of these options for Nmap? Well, basically it is a really important tool, and knowing all of these options will make you at least 50% better in penetration testing, since scanning is a really important part of performing a penetration test. So let us right here just open up our terminal. Let me make it this big, and in the other terminal right here I will open up the commands once again, nano commands.txt, where I will write all of the Nmap commands that we cover in this particular tutorial. So let us just type here once again Nmap. And the first thing we want to check out is the -pn command. Now we can find it right here, or for example, let's say you can't find a specific command in these bunch of the commands, you can just type here nmap and then grep -pn. Just find here -pn, and it will show us. Not like that, I did not want that to happen. Let me just... Oh yes, on nmap --help grep pn. Now why doesn't that... Yeah, never mind, for some reason that worked yesterday but doesn't want to work now, so it doesn't really matter. Just find the command right here. Let me just find it. It should be -P and then n. Here it is. Treat all hosts as online. Skip host discovery. Now this is an important command. You might be asking why. Well, some of the hosts that you scan on the network can appear to be offline. So, for example, if you know a specific host must be running and is online, but let's say you scan it right here and it says that it is offline. Now this is my laptop, so it will say that it is online at the moment, but I've had some scans that basically said that my machine that I was scanning, which was right next to me and which was connected to the network and running, basically said that the host was down, and every time I specify the -pn option, it basically skips the host discovery and, as it says, treats all hosts on the network as if they were online, which will perform the scan and it will give you the results without host discovery. So let's say, for example, I scan this IP address, which I don't have anything running on it, so it will say that the host is down, as you can see right here, 0 hosts up. This will be the same output for the machine that is running, but it is blocking the ping requests, or it is showing other machines that it's offline. So in that case you just specify the -pn option, and then you specify the IP address, and it will show as if it is online. Now in my case it won't show since I don't have anything there, so let me just scan my laptop once again. I just typed here nmap -pn and then 192.168.1.8, and it will skip the host discovery, and it will basically automatically say that my host is up and running, and it will scan for its open ports. Now let me just see, it has finished around 22%. You might notice that this scan is going a little bit slower, so we won't be waiting for that to finish, there is no point. Or we can just leave it right here, perhaps it finishes while I type it right here. So -pn and then the IP address, basically the IP address of any machine that you're scanning or any website that you're scanning. Of course, try not to scan the websites that you do not have permission on. You can always use the scanme.nmap.org, which we have permission to scan by Nmap. Or you can basically just use the Metasploitable virtual machine that we installed, or you can install basically any other virtual machine that you will use in order to scan and attack. Now, since I can't really run the Metasploitable, it gives me some error, I downloaded another virtual machine that I will show you how to install, and I will show you why we will use it. Basically, we will use it extensively in the website penetration testing part. I'm not really sure if Metasploitable has OWASP in it pre-installed. I doubt, so you can check out if it has that, then you don't need to install this virtual machine as well. But if it doesn't, you should install this virtual machine, as it is vulnerable and it is used for web penetration testing. So we will cover some of the attacks on the websites using this machine. But let us see right here. As you can see, the scan has finished and it treated our host it was up, and it discovered an open port. It also gave us back the MAC address. So it is a useful command if you know that the host is running and it is showing that it is offline. You just type your -pn and you will have your host scanned. Now, the next option I want to show you, which I didn't show you before, if we type here nmap, would be the -st command. If we go up here and find the -st, you can see that it is basically a full TCP scan. Let me just find it. Right here we have the SU, SN, SS, here it is. We can see a bunch of these options. We will only cover first these three basically, but for now on let us just cover the ST, which if you look right here, it is basically a connection. Now, by connection it means that it performs the full three-way handshake in order to scan the target. Now, as we talked before, the TCP connection requires three-way handshake, so let me just open up a paint so I can show you better. For example, let's say you have a PC right here, and you have another PC right here. So basically just laptops. Since I'm not really sure how to draw PCs, let us just... This is PCA and this is PCB. Let's say the PCB is your target and you scan from the computer A. Now, in order to, when you use the -st option, so -st option, it basically performs a three-way handshake scan with the TCP, which is basically us sending a bit set called SYN, then the other machine is sending us the bit set called SYN-ACK, which is basically same as SYN. Now, in order for you to learn more about this and to know what I'm talking about right here, you should read more about the TCP and UDP scans and TCP and UDP connections. I talked briefly about it in the previous tutorials, but you might need to know a little bit more in order to understand how these scans work. So, but it is not that complicated, and then the scan finishes with only ACK. I don't have where to write it, but that is basically the three-way handshake. So it is SYN, SYN-ACK, and then once again ACK. Why is it called three-way handshake? Because it is consisted from three parts, as you can see right here. SYN, SYN-ACK, and then once again ACK. Just ACK. So the -st option in Nmap performs all of these three, and therefore it can be detected on the target machine as you perform the full connection on the system, but it is also more accurate option for scanning, since if you were to complete only the SYN, it won't be able to gather as much information and as accurate information as you would be able to gather with the full TCP three-way handshake. For if you want your target to not be able to detect you, you shouldn't be using the -st, since it is very detectable, as I said, since you use the full TCP handshake. So let me just type here nmap -st, and then we can just type here the 192.168.1.8, and it will basically give us the same output as this option right here, but here you specified it to use the full three-way handshake. And this is the option that will give you the most accurate and precise results. So let me just see, here it is, it finished with the same result as the previous scan, so we have one TCP open port. So let me just write it right here, nmap -st 192.168.1.8. So we covered the full TCP connection scan. Now the next thing you want to basically cover is the -ss scan. So let me just open up here. -ss is only the first part of the -st. Let me just explain that a little bit better. As you can see, the -st is a full connect, and the -ss is the TCP only SYN bit set. So basically, in order for us to scan, we will only be sending this first part of the three-way handshake. That's why it is specified as -ss. The capital S stands for SYN, right here. Now, the thing about SYN scanning is it isn't detectable on the target host, so this is you can use that option in order to prevent the target from detecting your scan, because it won't really complete the handshake, but it is less accurate and it can also be detected by your IPS. Now we will talk in the next tutorial how to avoid the IPS detection and how to avoid some of the defenses that could be implemented into your router, for example, in order to block or send false information onto your Nmap scan. So let us perform the SS scan. Here we will basically type here nmap -ss and then the IP address of our laptop, or basically any machine or website that you are scanning. This is a little bit taking a little longer than the -st scan, probably because it takes a lot longer time in order for it to gather the same information that it gathered while using the full TCP handshake scan. So we will wait for this to finish in order to see what the results are and if they are the same as the -st option. So while this is running, I will just type here -ss 192.168.1.8. Now, while this is 45%, okay, while this is doing, let us recap. So -bn option, as we said, is used when the hosts appear down. The -st option is a three-way handshake TCP connection to the host, and it is detectable and more accurate. And -ss scan performs the only first part of the three-way handshake, which is the SYN part. It is not detectable on the host, it is less accurate, and it can be detected by your IPS. So as we can see, the scan has finished and it gave us the same output as the -st scan, which is good. We have one open port and we have the service running on it. So let us just type here once again nmap. There is one more option I want to show you before we finish this tutorial, which is the -su option. If we go right here, you can see the -su option is basically only Udp Scan. All of these three options, well, basically all of these five right here, perform the TCP scan, or basically a part of TCP scan, as well as some of these right here. But if you specify the -su option, it will only perform Udp Scan. Now, as we talked before, UDP is connectionless and we won't have any confirmation that the packets arrived at our target. It is not consisted of three-way handshake, or basically it is not consisted of any handshake. We simply, with UDP, just send packets to the other hosts and hope that they get there intact and whole. So let us just right here use the Udp Scan. So we specify with the -su option, U stands for UDP, and we type here our IP address. Let us see how long this will take. as we can see, it won't finish that fast. This is also a slower scan. So while that is doing, let me just write it right here, so we can see which ones we covered. And my advice would be to use -st when it doesn't really matter if hosts detects you, and if you are performing a penetration test, for example, where the target shouldn't be able to detect you, you can use the -ss scan. Or you can use some of the scans that are some of the options for scans that I will show you in the next tutorial in order to make your scan even less detectable. So let me just see where this is at. It is at 62%. So I will cut the tutorial right here and I will show you the output of this command in the next one, as well as some of the other options that we will cover. So I hope you enjoyed this lecture and I hope I see you in the next one. Bye. Hello everybody and welcome back, and before we begin with the options for this part of the tutorial, I just want to show you the output of the previous scan that we did, and as we can see, it discovered a port that is different than the port that these three previous scans got us, which was the port I believe 5357 or something like that, which was a TCP port, and instead of that we got a UDP open port netBIOS -ns, which runs on 137 on our laptop machine. So you might notice that the UDP scan basically just gives you the output for UDP ports, which makes sense. It will basically give you any UDP port which is open. For example, it could be this netBIOS, it could be your DNS or anything that is running over UDP. This option right here will give you open UDP ports. So now that we covered that, we covered basically the full three-way TCP handshake. We covered the SYN, only the first part of three-way TCP handshake, and we covered the UDP scan. So now that we covered all of those options, I want to show you how you can avoid some of the defenses that your target might have and how you can avoid your IPS. So, for example, the first thing you might want to do if your target is blocking your Nmap or you can't get any output, for example, you can try the -SA option. Now, as I said in the previous video, -SA is listed where TCP scans are, since the A stands for ACK, which is the last part of three-way TCP handshake. As you can see right here, it is the third option and it stands for ACK. Now, I deleted this drawing that I did before since it was really bad. Let me just draw it once again. It doesn't even matter. This is the PCA, this is the PCB, and from A we want to scan B. But let's say you try to perform a three-way TCP handshake. So it goes like this, then this machine sends SYN-ACK, and once again you send ACK right here. This one last is only the ACK. I really do encourage you to read more about TCP handshakes, since this can be a little bit confusing if you don't know what am I talking about. But basically the method behind this is the -SA, which is only the last part of TCP handshake, can be used to bypass some of the rules of your router. For example, if there is a rule that allows SYN packets only from the inter-network. So what I just said is basically, let's say this is some website that will only allow the full three-way TCP handshakes or SYN packets, which is the first part of the TCP handshake, only from the inter-network. So basically only from the machines that are on its local network, and you as someone coming from the internet trying to send a SYN packet to the machine being outside of your local network, you will get blocked. And if that rule really exists on the target machine, you can trick it by sending only the ACK, which is the last part of three-way TCP handshake, which will trick the router or the website to think that it is an answer to a previous SYN bit set. So let's say this router is connected to some of the other devices on its local network. Now pardon me for my really bad drawing right here, but basically this circle right here is representing the internal network of this machine. And it will only accept the three-way handshakes or SYN packets, SYN bitsets from the machines that are on its local network. And you, as someone coming from the outside, trying to send the SYN packet, will get blocked. So if you only send the ACK packet without sending the previous SYN packet or bitset, it is not a packet, it is basically a bitset from the TCP packet, it might trick your router to think that this ACK is an answer to a previous SYN bitset that some of the local machines sent. So in order to do that, you just type here nmap -sa and then the IP address of your router. So let me just type here also. So basically you use this option if there is the blockage of SYN bitset on the target machine. Now this is not that common to see, so you won't be needing it that much, but it can happen. Now the next thing you might want to specify is the port, the source port that your packets are going from. Now by default the Nmap sets the sort, which is the port which is your port from which you send the packets to the machine. It can be any port. I believe the Nmap specifies it randomly at the beginning of the scan, and it can be problem in case where the target only allows the packets from the specific ports. Now what I mean is, let's say for example you run an Nmap scan from this machine and it basically uses the port 333 for the outgoing scan, which is a randomly assigned port for your machine, but once it gets to the target machine, there is a rule on the target machine that this port will only accept packages from the ports, for example 80. So your packages, no matter which type of option you specify, whether it is the Udp scan, the ACK scan, the SYN scan, or the full TCP scan, it will get blocked since your packets are not coming from the outgoing port, which is port 80. So in order for you to be able to scan this target, you need to specify the port which it allows the packets to come from. So it will usually be some of the known ports, which is for example port 53 for the DNS, port 25, port 80, port 8080. It can be any of those widely known ports, but it can also be any other random ports, so you will need to find it out by yourself. But once you do find out that by yourself, you can just type here -- source port and then the number of the source port. For example, let's say the source port is 80, and then we type here the IP address of our target machine. And as we can see right here, the IP address 0 hosts up. Not really sure why that happens. As we can see right here, host seems down if it is really up, but blocking our ping probes. Try -pn. So let's try -pn, which we covered in the previous tutorial, but for some reason it doesn't want to show us that the host is up. Let me just see right here if I correctly specified this option. -- source port, I believe it is, but let us check once again. Where could it be? Timing, OS detection, script scan, service, port. Exclude ports, port ratio, fast scan ports, don't randomize. And maybe they changed this option. I thought it was -- source -port, and it didn't give us any error, so I believe it still is, but for some reason our host is appearing to be down. But we won't be really wasting our time on that. So basically, let's just recap. You use the minus source minus port option when your target is only allowing packets to come from certain ports. For example, as we saw 80. So let me just write right here minus source minus port 192.168.1.8. And let us continue to the next step in order to bypass some of the detection problems, which could be the data length. Now, the Nmap by default sends packets of specific size. I'm not really sure what the size is, but I believe it sends the same size packets every time. So some of the defenses today have rules to deny packets that are of standard Nmap size. Basically, what that means is that Nmap, every time when it sends packets, it sends them with the same size, and if someone has a rule specified or knows that Nmap exists, it can make a rule that says basically block any packet that is the size of the standard Nmap packet. Now, to bypass this detection system, you can configure different packet sizes with the option minus data minus length. Now, let me just type here normally, so let us try that one out. If we type here Nmap and then minus data minus length, and we specify, for example, 50, and we type here the IP address, it didn't give us any error, so it means that the syntax of the command is correct. So this is taking a little bit of time. It should give us the correct output once it finishes. So let me just type here the data length 192.168.1.8. Now, of course, you don't have to specify only this option. Once you scan, you can specify a bunch of options, including this one. So you can basically use all of these three, for example, to combine into a scan, which will bypass all of these three detection problems, which the first one is the blockage of SYN bit set, the second one is blockage of specific ports, and the third one is the blockage of the Nmap standard packet size. So we will cover one more in order to bypass the detection and defense. Right here we have the output of the scan. As we can see, it performed correctly, and we have one open port, which is TCP, and the service running is WSDAP. So let us continue on to the next one, which would be the spoofing of your MAC address. Now, long ago, one of the first tutorials, we covered how to change our MAC address. You can use that as well, but the Nmap gives us its own option to spoof our MAC address. And as we can see, if we type here Nmap, I believe it will show us the option right here. Not really sure if it is listed. Yes, it is right here. We can also see the data length command and the source port. As we can see, I forgot where was this option. Let me just try here with -G, as it says that it is same as -- source port, and it didn't work for us. So let me just type here Nmap -G and then port 80 and then 192.168.1.8. Let us see if the host is up right now, and it is up. So basically, instead of this option -- source port, you can use -G and specify the port, of course. So that's good. I didn't know that existed, but let us not care about that at the moment. At the moment, we want to spoof our MAC address with this command. As we can see, the syntax is --spoof -mac, and then we add the MAC address right here. You can add other options as well as prefix vendor name, but we will just type here the MAC address, and we can see that the description for this option is spoof your MAC address. So let us do that. The source port scan finished, so let us just clear the screen and type here nmap spoof -mac, I believe that was the option, and you type your MAC address that you want to fake. So let me just save this, and to show you, you can see right here that or let us use the Mac changer, we covered it before. You type here -show and then the network interface in order to see your current MAC address. So this is the format of the MAC address. You can see it is divided by 2 dots, and it is consisted from 6 parts that are basically divided by these 2 dots. So we can just type here 223344556677, and we right here type the IP address of our host or of our target. And as you can see right here, it says spoofing MAC address 223344556677, no registered vendor, and host seems down. If it's really up but blocking our ping probes, try -pn. Now for some reason it seems that the host is down with that option. It could be because we didn't really specify these 2 options, but I doubt really. We won't really bother with that right now. I just want you to know about that option, that for example it is used if this machine right here allows the packets to come only from certain MAC addresses. It can be used as a blacklist or as a whitelist. This machine can have a blacklist where it blocks some of the MAC addresses, and some of those could be yours as well, or it could have whitelist where it only allows certain MAC addresses. Now most likely it will have a whitelist where it will allow only trusted devices with their MAC addresses. And in order for you to be able to send packets to this machine, you need to spoof the MAC address of a trusted device from that this target machine has specified in its whitelist. And once you do that with the -spoof -mac option, you will be able to send packets and receive packets from the target machine. So let us type right here -source, or not source, it is spoof I believe. Let me just see what was the option, spoof Mac. And then you basically just type here 3344556677. It doesn't have to be this MAC address, you can basically specify a MAC address you want. And right here you type the IP address of your target, or the host name. Doesn't really matter. So that would be about it for the avoiding defense and IPS. These 4 things can be useful if your target has specified some of the rules in order to block your scans, but you will find out that rarely targets use any of these rules to prevent you from scanning them, but if it happens, you can use these options that we covered in this video. Now, in the next video I will show you what are Nmap scripts, how to get to them, and how to use them. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope I see you in the next one. Bye. Hello everybody and welcome back, and in this tutorial I will show you some of the advanced use of the Nmap, which is basically using the scripts that are already pre-installed in Kali Linux. Now, scripts can be used for anything, to discover, for example, SSH host key, to discover some of the vulnerabilities, to Ssh Brute Force, to basically do a bunch of things. As we will see right here, there are a bunch of scripts that are already in our Kali Linux machine. So, first of all, in order to get to them, you just want to change your directory into the user share nmap. And if you go into that directory and type here ls, you will see a subdirectory called scripts. Now, let me enlarge this right here. So if you change your directory to scripts and type here ls, you will see that it will print out a bunch of these .nse files, which are basically the already pre-installed Nmap scripts that you can use for basically any type of scan you want. So, for example, let me just show you first of all how to use them. So, if you type here nmap, you will see the --script option, which is right here. and then basically you type here equals and then the name of the script. It is simple as that. So in order for you to use the script, you just specify this option and then equals, and then you specify the name of any of these files right here, which are basically scripts, and you run them on your target IP. Now we will try out one of the scripts for now on, which will be the Ssh Brute Force, which will be also one of the first attacks, active attacks on the target. It will basically a brute force. It will try out a bunch of passwords for the SSH on our target. Now for that target you can use any of the virtual machines you want. You cannot use scan.nmap.org website, as it says do not try the website brute force SSH on the Nmap website. So you want to either run your Metasploitable, which I showed how to install in the previous videos, or you can basically run any other machine that has the port 22 open. Now in my case I will run OWASP, which I will show you how to install in some of the next tutorials. For now on, just run your Metasploitable, since Metasploitable also has the SSH port open. So let me just wait while this opens right here. It doesn't take long. It will basically prompt me with username and password soon. It's pretty similar to the Metasploitable. This is just a virtual machine that runs a bunch of the vulnerable programs on it. So as you can see, starting app, armor profile, starting PostgreSQL database, and a bunch of these other stuff. This is the machine that we will use in the next section, which would be web pen testing. So let me just log in right here, and we don't need this anymore. We just need to find out what the IP address of this machine is, which is 192.168.1.7. So if we only scan the host for now on with the Nmap, so we do a basic scan, you can see that it finishes relatively fast and it gives us a bunch of these ports open, only TCP ports, and as you can see we have the 22 TCP SSH port open. Now while scanning Metasploitable you should also have this port open, so as long as this port is open on the target machine you can run this scan. So the script that we are looking for, if we type here we want to find the SSH script, so in order to narrow our options, let us just type here ls, and then we pipe that into grep SSH. So it will only show us the scripts that have SSH in their name. Now from all of these we can use any of these, but for now on I will just use the ssh brute.nse. We copy the name of the script, and in order for you to run the script you type here nmap --script equals, and then you paste here the name of the script. You can just copy paste it from here, and then the only thing you need is the IP address, which is 192.168.1.7, and just press here enter, and as you can see it started brute forcing our target. If it finds the username and password you will be able to SSH into that machine and basically do anything to it. This is a very serious attack. It can get you into trouble, especially if you find out the password and actually log in into that machine and start changing stuff. So only use this on the machines that you do own. Now for this specific machine I don't think it will find the password, but we will just leave it run just in case. I don't think that the password and username is stored in this list that it is using in order to brute force the SSH target. So this can take some time. It depends on the list that you use. So let me just close this right here, since I thought it would finish a little bit faster. It doesn't matter, I will just type here Control C in order to close, and we stop the brute force. Now let's say once again we want to find that, and you want to change the password list. For example, as you can see it has the specific password list that it uses in order to brute force the target. So what you want to do is to nano the script that you are using, which in my case is Ssh Brute, and what you want to change right here is the option where it gives us the password list. Now I'm not really sure where that is. You can just, I believe it's right here, usage. Here, it's right here, so pass.list. I believe you change that and it will change the password list that you are using. So you can also change the port, which is 22. Basically, SSH will most likely always run on the port 22, but there are cases where people run stuff on the other ports just to prevent the attacks, so you might be needing to change that as well. So here you can see that the port rule is 22 and SSH. You basically just change the 22 into any port number you want that runs SSH on it, and you will be good to go. So if there are any other options that you want to change right here, you can change it in the file itself if it requires that, for example the port and the password list. And once you do that, you just type here Ctrl+O to save, Enter to save under that name, and Ctrl+X to exit, and you will be good to go. Now you can run the script again and it should change your password list and port number. Now let's say, for example, you want to find out the SSH host key for that particular machine, so we just copy, which isn't really useful, but let's just try it, why not? So nmap script equals SSH host key and then the IP address of our target machine. Now as we can see, it gave us the SSH host key, which is basically just this DSA and RSA. It really isn't that useful, but sometimes it possibly could be. So you can experiment with all of these scripts right here. In the next tutorial I will show you how to download some of the scripts online from the GitHub repository that we will use in order to scan for specific vulnerabilities. So let's just recap. In order to get to the scripts folder, you just go to the user share nmap scripts directory, and the syntax is basically nmap -- script equals then the name of the script itself, and you just specify the IP address. So that's about it for this tutorial. It was rather short, and in the next one, as I said, we will download some of our own scripts. So I hope I see you there, and take care. Hello everybody, and welcome back to the last part of the Nmap scanning tutorials. Now in this tutorial we will download some of our own scripts and we will run them against our target in order to discover some of the vulnerabilities it might have. Now once you finish this tutorial right here, you will know more than 80% of people that use Nmap, and it is really essential for you to get this tool right so you can perform your scans at the best. So first of all, let us change the directory to the nmap scripts directory, so it is user share nmap scripts. If you type here ls, we have here a bunch of scripts, and mostly these right here, which is CVE 2015 and then some number, are certain vulnerabilities that were discovered in the age of this number. So basically this one was from 2017, this one was from 2015, and so on and so on. But we want to discover all of the vulnerabilities that could occur in a certain target. So for that we want to download some of our own scripts. So just open up Firefox and open up a new tab and just type here scan GitHub. Once it loads up the page, we want to click on the first link, which will lead us to the GitHub repository for this script. So just click here on the first link, and here we are on the GitHub repository of this Nmap vulnerability scanner. As you can see right here, we have the usage, which we will cover after we download this script. Now in order to download this, I already showed you in the previous videos, you just copy the link right here, and we will use the Git program that we already installed. Let me just change my directory. And it's not there, it is in root. So that's about it. Let us just delete these two files from previous videos, we do not need them anymore. And we want to type here git clone, and then we paste the link that we copied, and then we add .git. Now it will take some time to download this, and once it finishes we will have our script installed on our Kali Linux machine. I believe it will finish. Yeah, here it is. And if we type here ls, we can see the Volscan is right here as a directory. In order to go to it, we just type here cd Volscan, and we can see a bunch of the files that we got with it. But this isn't the only program I want to install. Right now we want to install another script. So open up your Firefox once again, add a second tab, and just type here nmap vulners, and then once again type here GitHub. So it will once again lead you to this page, and you just want to click here on the first link, which is from the GitHub website. The procedure is same, so just copy the link of the page, go to your directory. So let me just go one directory back and make sure that we're in the same directory where Volscan is, and just type here git clone, paste your link right here, and add .git to it. It will also download the script into our directory, and we will be good to go. So as we can see, this one has finished faster than the previous one. So right now we should have both of these scripts in our directory. As we can see right here, we have Volscan, and we also have nmap vulners. Now let us make a directory nmap scripts in order to put them both into that directory, so we don't have them like this right here. So let me just move Volscan into nmap scripts. Oops, let me just and move the nmap vulners into nmap scripts. And right here we should only have the nmap scripts file, and if we change our directory to it, we will have our both scripts right here. So now that we downloaded them, and now we can run them. So in order to run them, we use the same command that we used in the previous video. So nmap --script, and right here, instead of typing the equal sign, which we would use in order to specify one script, we want to remove the equal sign and just put here space, and just type here Volscan and nmap vulners. As we can see right here, we specified two scripts instead of one, and it will use both of them in order to discover the vulnerabilities. So after this we want to add -sv in order to discover the version of the services running on open ports, and right here we want to also add the IP address of the target. So let me just check once again what was the IP address of this target. It was .1.7, so here we type 192.168.1.7, and we let this run. So let me just enlarge this. This could take some time, but not too long. It should finish relatively fast, and it will print out a bunch of the vulnerabilities that it found on this target. Now I know that this target is vulnerable since it is made vulnerable in order for us to test it, and we can see that we got a different output from previous scans. So here we have open ports, and these vulnerabilities, as it says right here, if you see no findings, it means it didn't find any vulnerabilities on this specific port. And it basically uses a bunch of these websites in order to scan for the vulnerabilities. And if we scroll up, we can see that on the TCP open port, which is running Apache, it found a bunch of vulnerabilities right here. Now you can test these scripts on your own machine in order to find out if your PC has some of the vulnerabilities, but basically even mine has some of the vulnerabilities that go up to 5, sometimes 7.5. But mostly these aren't so dangerous, these that are low numbers. This is basically a mark for the vulnerabilities, so if it is 1.2, it is a really small vulnerability, but it is still there. And if it is 10.0, it is basically an easy exploited vulnerability. So if you just find something like this, you need to update your device as soon as possible. Or in this case, Apache 2, since it is found on the port 80. Let us just see if there is anything else, and we can see also on the SSH port, it found some of the vulnerabilities, which aren't so highly rated, but they are still there. And also, once you find something like this, you can basically just copy this link right here, which will lead you to a page on Firefox. If you paste it, you just open a new tab and paste the link from the vulnerability, and it will open up the page where it will describe in greater details the vulnerability that it discovered. So here we can see the mark, which is 10, the access complexity is low, the confidentiality is complete, the integrity is complete, and the availability is complete. In the description you can check out what the vulnerability is, which in this case is model arc win32 in something. Let us just not read all of these numbers. When running on Windows, does not ensure that request processing is complete before calling isap unload for isap.dll module, which allows remote attackers to execute arbitrary code via unspecified vectors related to a crafted request, a reset packet, and orphan callback pointers. Now, this is basically a vulnerability, and if you wanted to, for example, exploit it, you would basically just copy the name of the vulnerability, which in our case is this one. So just copy, and you can just go onto the Google, paste that vulnerability, and type here exploit, and hope that you will find something or someone that already has written an exploit for this vulnerability. So we can just try to find it. We know that we can click on any link, for example, and try to find if anyone has written any exploit for this. Now, we do not want to go right here. There probably is something, but we won't really spend so much time trying to find it. I will just check out some of the links right here. I agree, whatever, let's go. So, available exploits. So we can just check here available exploits. And we have the module name for the Metasploit program that we haven't still covered, so we won't be showing it right now. But it is basically an auxiliary module which allows us to scan the vulnerability that we just discovered in the Metasploit framework. Now we can also try to find the vulnerability with the name of the vulnerability itself, but not like this, but like this: Apache mod isap exploit, and we can try to find something. Let us check right here, and here we found something which is basically a C++ program that probably exploits this vulnerability. So here it is. You could just copy this entire program and just paste it into a C++ file, compile that file and run it, and you would exploit the vulnerability. Of course, you will need to change some of these certain things right here, for example ports, IP addresses, and so on. But if you wanted to, you could do that. Not really sure what it would give you, but I believe it will give you a reverse shell. Not really sure what this vulnerability is, so we won't be exploiting it right now, since it requires an auxiliary module from the Metasploit framework. For now on, we will just leave it on here. where we have all of these scans completed, and you can also try to research all of these other vulnerabilities and see if there are any exploits written for them that you can use. But we will cover the exploitation in some of the future lectures. For now on, we just wanted to see how we can scan the target for certain vulnerabilities, and we did that. So that's about it for this. Now, before I close this lecture and close the Nmap lecture, I just want to show you that there is another tool that you can use if you want to. It is basically almost the same as Nmap, and it is almost the same code, which is Amap. Now, the Amap is basically also a scanner. The difference is basically in just one letter. It has some of the different syntax for the scanning part, but if you want to, you can check it out. I won't be covering it since we covered a bigger tool, which is Nmap, and more useful tool. You can check out some of these options by yourself, and you can use this as well if you want to. But that would be it for these Nmap tutorials. If you learn all of the stuff that we covered in the previous videos, you will be having some of the intermediate to advanced knowledge of Nmap. Now, maybe in the advanced section we will learn how to write some of our own Nmap scripts, which will even more boost your knowledge about Nmap. So in the next video I will show you how to install the OWASP virtual machine that we will use for the web penetration testing. It doesn't take that long, it basically takes a few minutes. It might be taking longer to download since it is around, I believe, 1.5 gigabytes or something like that. But once you download it, it will take only a few minutes to install. And then we will start web penetration testing, which will be a longer section since there is a lot to cover. And I hope I see you in the next lecture, and take care.